Hey guys, well, it happens every time. Rain starts coming down when I get my camera out. Anyways, I keep buying plants. And every time I buy plants, I don't think about where I'm going to put them before I buy them. I just buy them. Anyways, I've got some blueberry plants that I need to plant. And I went down to the nursery and I was looking at some of their boxes like this, and they were incredibly expensive. And I thought, you know what? And they were made out of cedar. So I thought I can probably build something like that. So I went down to the lumber yard and got me some redwood. Now these things are 2 feet by 2 feet and about 2 feet high. And they don't take long. I built 2 of these in just an afternoon. And so they're easy to build and they're inexpensive. Cost me about $15 for each one. Now what I'm going to do is they're open bottom because I'm going to dig up the ground a little bit underneath them. And so that way, if the roots happen to go a little bit deeper, they will go into the ground. But you know what? Blueberry plants don't go more than 2 feet. I haven't seen any of mine go more than 1.5 feet. So I think these are going to be a perfect size for those. So anyways, let's get started. Well, we're getting some much needed rain here. So I will stand out here in the rain, and you guys stay back there on the edge of the garage where it's nice and dry. Okay. I just got back from the lumber yard. And I picked up some of this redwood fencing. They're 1 by 6 by 8 foot long. Now typically I get the fencing that is rough cut. In other words, it's not sanded, but they didn't have any of that. So I ended up getting the premium stuff. Now looking back on it, since they were out of that, and I picked this up, looking at it, I'm actually kind of glad that they were out of it because I really like the looks of the sanded stuff and I think it's going to make a prettier box. The only drawback is usually the rough cut stuff is about $2 a board, and these were $2.99 a board. So it's not that big of a deal, I guess, because it's going to take 5 of these boards to make one of those boxes. And so I'm looking at $15 to make one of them. So anyways, what I'm doing is it's going to take 1 board for one side. So it's an 8-foot piece, and I'm going to cut this into 2-foot sections. So I'm going to get 4 pieces. 4 pieces are going to make up one side of the box. So 4 of these are going to be the sides. Now, this may sound strange, but what I'm going to do is they're 5.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off. I'm going to run this through the table saw and slice off 1/4 inch. So these sides are 5.25 inches. Now that sounds strange, but the reason why I'm doing this is because once I put all the sides together, and then I put the trim around the top, the trim pieces are going to have to be, if I leave these this way, they're going to have to be bigger than 2 feet. They're going to be like 25 inches or so. And I don't want to do that because I would have to cut into another board. And I want to make this project out of just 5 boards. So I'm going to rip 1/4 inch off of this. And by the way, I'll explain that and you'll see it once I start to assemble it. You'll understand why. So I'm going to rip these 4, and then I'm going to take this one, the 5th one, and rip it right down the center, about 2.5 inches or so, a little over, 2 3/4, right down the center, and this is going to be my trim. 1/2 of this is going to be for the top, and 1/2 is going to be for the bottom, and I'll cut this into 2-foot sections also. So I'll get 8 pieces out of this 5th one to do the trim. Okay. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut these. I'm going to rip them first, and then I'm going to cut them into 2-foot sections. So I'm going to end up with 16 pieces. Okay, so I have my 4 boards trimmed down to 5.25 inches, and my 1 board ripped in half at about 2 3/4 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut these into 2-foot sections. Okay, so let me show you how I'm putting these sides together. Now I've got these 4 2-foot pieces up against my rip fence on my table saw, and then at the edge of the table saw here, so I know that it's perfectly square. And now I'm going to put the 2 pieces of trim on. Now when I cut the trim, here's how I measured it. What I did was I measure the 4 pieces here, which is exactly 21 inches. And then I add the width of one of the boards. In other words, one side is going to go up against the other side like this. So I added 1 inch on it here. So I ended up cutting the trim at 22 inches. And now that's the start of the bevel. In other words, I cut the 22 inches from here up to here. Now the overall length of this is almost 24 inches, so it's 23 7/8. Now that's the reason why I trimmed these down when I ripped them. I ripped that 1/4 inch off because I can get 4 pieces of trim out of one length of board. So that's almost 24 inches. So that works out perfectly. And that's why I trimmed these down. Now if you want to go ahead and cut a bunch of extra boards and you make your boxes any size that you want, you can do that. But this is basically how I measure it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue these and screw them. One side I'm going to flush it right up against like this to the start of the bevel. And then the other side is going to hang out 1 inch. Okay? And then when I put the sides together, you'll see more, you'll understand more how this whole thing goes together. But that's how I'm doing it. And it seems to work perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue these and I'm going to screw them. Now, when I do this, I'm going to put screws in, but the screws that I put in, I'm just going to put in regular all-purpose screws. The reason is because the only reason that I'm putting the screws in is to kind of hold it until the glue dries, because that's where the strength is in the glue. Now the screws, the all-purpose ones, a lot of people are going to say, well, they're going to deteriorate. Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't really care about that because this thing will hold together with lots of glue. And if you're really concerned about that, now I could use galvanized, but I never want to use galvanized where there is any food product. And I'm going to be, maybe people think that I'm being a little bit too tweaky. Maybe I shouldn't be concerned about it, but I never use galvanized around my garden. So that's just been my philosophy, and I may be totally wrong on that. Now you could use stainless steel screws, of course, and they won't rust, but that's a lot of money on it. So I'm not worried about it. I think my screws are going to last plenty long. So they're going to give me a good 10 years. So anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this and I'm going to screw it, just the top and the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead, I'm going to do all 4 sides, and then when I'm done with that we'll stand them up and then I'll show you how it fits together. Okay, so here's a handheld aerial view. I've got the box just fit like this together. I wanted to show you how these sides worked. On one side, I brought the wood right to the edge of the bevel, and then on the other side, I brought it in 1 inch, or I basically extended this one over 1 inch. And I did this on all 4 of them, one normal side and one extended side. And the reason being is you want the side next to it to come all the way in so that your 45s line up. See, just like this. This wall here comes in, and then my 45 lines up here. Now, one beauty of doing it this way too is that I'm not going to have to screw into this bevel here and try to get that to stay secure. It's a weak link is what it is. Here I'll be able to screw directly in here and hit the edge of this 1x, and it'll be a lot stronger, and it'll help square it up too. So I'm going to put recesses in here, and what I'm going to do is put plugs in. So I'll screw in with a screw set, 2 holes here, I'll glue it, and then 2 holes here with screws, and then put plugs in, and I'll do 2 down on the bottom also, and do it that way. And then I'll do that on all 4 corners, and that will square it up really good, and it should be completely square when I get done. Okay, so to screw these together, a lot of people like to use those twist bits, and what they do is they make a recessed hole here and they've got a pilot bit on it, and then you can put your plug in. I don't like to use them because I don't think they make clean enough holes. So I always use a Forstner bit, and it does have a small pilot, the tip of it, I can use it as a pilot hole. Good enough for me. So if I was to get tweaky and measure this, and I put a little mark here, I could easily see the tip of it. I know I got glue all over my fingers. I'm careless sometimes. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and use these. Now I've got a mark on here with my Sharpie that shows where I need to stop as far as how deep my plug is. And I went and got my plugs. Now I got the round head plugs accidentally instead of the flush head. But that's okay. Usually I just make them flush and I sand it down, and then all you see is just a different color here where the plug is. But these are going to protrude a little bit, which I'm okay with that. It's just, I don't know, maybe it'll look better. But anyways, one box that I did has the flush bits on it, and this one here has but you won't notice it. I know I'm getting tweaky, So anyways, I go ahead and I eyeball it with my Forstner. And see, I'm okay with that. And then I'll go ahead and I've got some 2-inch screws that I'm going to use to attach this here. I'm going to glue it and then screw this, and then I'm going to do 2 on the top here, 2 on the bottom, and then I'm going to go all the way around, and we're going to put this thing completely together. And we should be done. Okay, the rain is gushing now. I have one more add-on to this whole thing. I went and took one of those boards and I ripped it right down the center, one of the standard size, the 8-foot one, the full one. And I went and cut 2-foot pieces off of each one of those, so I ended up with 8. So I ripped it down the center and then cut each one of those halves into 2-foot sections. So I had 8 pieces, and then I went and mitered them at 45s so that I could put some trim on the top. And the reason for this, because I don't want the water running down inside of here and getting wet inside the uprights, and then, you know, potentially it could make it swell or whatever. So I just wanted to keep it protected. I mean, it's not going to do 100%, but it also makes it look better too. So I did this add-on. So it ended up being 5.5 boards for each one of these. So 11 boards altogether. Now there was also some, I know somebody's probably going to ask, are you going to stain them? And I'm not going to stain them, because I think this being redwood, they're going to, I mean, I've used cedar boxes before, and I'm getting 10, 15 years and they're still going strong. I've got some boxes that I've made out of regular 2x4s. I didn't do anything to them, and I'm going on 11 years, and they're just as strong as they ever were. So no, I'm not going to stain these, because I don't like the idea of having stain leaching in to my soil or whatever's in this box. I may be getting also tweaky on that, the same thing I have with the issue I have with the galvanized. So, I mean, if you want to stain these, go ahead. You could probably find some kind of tung oil, or I don't know, something that you could probably find that would probably be more food grade or something, but I'm just not going to worry about it. I just like the way they look right now, and I think they're going to last me they're probably going to outlast me, is what I'm saying. So anyways, so there they are. I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably screw them to this after, of course, it dries up now, but I'm going to glue, not screw up, I'm going to glue them, and then I'm probably going to put some big finish nails in these, 3 or 4 of them in each one of these to hold it down. And so anyways, well, there you go. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll put a link below. You can go on over to my gardening channel, and I will show you my planting of the blueberries in here and what kind of soil and stuff that I use. So anyways, well, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you guys later.